Hello, everyone. This is my research related article. The title of the article that I chose was Race, Place, and Obesity in the Complex Relationship Among Community, Racial, Ethnic Composition, Individual Race/Ethnicity, and Obesity in the United States. The article was by James B. Kirby, Lan Ling, Sin Zhenshen, and Yufa Wang. The methodology of this was a cross sectional study, and it analyzed the nationally representative data, which was from Medical Expenditure Panel. The data was extracted from 2002 to 2007 with a sample size of 123,000 and 192 adults that are over the age of 18. The study had a few exclusions, including pregnant women, people with extreme or severe BMI values, or even missing BMI values, and people that were also excluded were people that were outside the four main racial ethnic groups that included Hispanics, non-Hispanic whites, non-Hispanic blacks, and non-Hispanic Asians. The dependent variable of the study was BMI and obesity, with a greater, and obesity is defined as a BMI greater than or equal to 30. The independent variable of the study was race or ethnicity and racial composition of a community. The controlled variables of the study was poverty rate, the number of grocery stores, convenience stores, special meat vegetable stores, gym facilities or exercise facilities, full service restaurants, and fast food restaurants. Moreover, the study conducted a statistical analysis. The few points I'll be going over from the statistical analysis is the linear regression, the logistic regression, and the interaction. The linear regression examines the relationship between the race/ethnic composition of a community and BMI. The logistic regression examined the relationship between the composition of a community and the odds of being obese. And the interaction examined if there was a direct effect on individuals' race/ethnicity determined by the makeup of the community's predominant race/ethnicity. I'll briefly be going over this graph. In summary, black adults living in a community with a greater than or equal to 25% non-Hispanic black residents saw little to no change in BMI compared to those in more mixed communities. On the other hand, Hispanic adults had a slight BMI increase in predominant Hispanic communities, but the confidence intervals are pretty wide, as you can see on the graph. Hispanic adult or white adults living in a predominantly black community experienced a decrease in BMI, while those in predominantly Hispanic communities had an increase in BMI. Asian adults saw small changes regardless of community composition, and there was no statistical significant effects. But the error bars, as you can see, are actually pretty wide for many groups, which indicates a lot of variability and that not all observed differences are significant statistically. One thing I want to remind before I move on is that when it comes to, as I discussed previously in the presentation, that how they define a predominantly race or ethnic community is when the race, let's say a black community, is a community that is greater than or equal to 25% of that community is black, or Hispanic or Asian. That's when something's predominantly that race or ethnic community. In conclusion, the results of the study concluded that individuals who are living in communities with a dense Hispanic population was associated with a higher risk of obesity and associated with higher BMI for 3 out of the 4 racial groups: non-Hispanic whites, non-Hispanic Asians, and Hispanics. On the other side, individuals living in communities with high non-Hispanic Asian populations were linked to lower BMI, lower obesity risk among non-Hispanic whites, especially men. Lastly, there was not a significant association found between communities with non-Hispanic blacks and obesity. But at the same time, non-Hispanic blacks had the highest overall obesity rates, which is pretty interesting. To reflect, the reason why I chose this article, because it's always been an interesting topic for me to go over. I just feel like throughout the years, I've always seen articles and I've always seen different posts, even through social media, that show different statistics that labeled other communities as having certain health disparities and why certain communities might have bigger health disparities than others. But I've never really dived into the statistics behind it, which is really interesting for me. And I want to continue to do further studies on this. And that brings me to that second point of my reflection is I would like to look at more present studies that link to the reasons behind the results, because this is a pretty old study, but I assume that the newer studies have more present data, which I can kind of dissect and look at to just give me more fresh ideas of what the health disparities are like now and what contributes to those health disparities. I just want to thank y'all for tuning into my presentation. I hope you'll have a great day.